You may remember in previous discussions, we've talked about the conscious mind. This conscious mind is a state of mind that we can experience during our mindfulness or a mindful meditation or any form of meditation in which we're involved in contemplation. It allows us to have a sense of who we are. This is the psychology definition of consciousness, is understanding who you are and that you're different from other people. Also understanding that you're here for a temporary period of time. But consciousness can also be thought of as thinking. It's a good question to ask ourselves, is there some advantage to being conscious? Would it be easier if we lived an unconscious life? In fact, many people, and at many times, even those of us who participate regularly in meditation, have many periods of time that are subconscious or unconscious behavior. We're just sort of allowing our subconscious mind to run on autopilot. Many people, of course, take drugs and alcohol to alter their state of consciousness. Another interesting question is, do animals have consciousness? In 2012, a group of people got together and signed the Cambridge Declaration of 2012 regarding consciousness in animals. And it was essentially determined that most mammals, or all mammals in fact, have consciousness. And many other animals have consciousness too. Birds, for example, it was determined to have consciousness. So they have this sense of knowing who they are. If you're ready, move to the next slide. You may remember yesterday we talked a little bit about where consciousness resides, looking for it in the brain, and it has been a significant effort among scientists to try to find out which part of the brain is responsible for consciousness. Yesterday I showed you a slide and it was looking at the insula, this part of the brain underneath the cerebral cortex. On the picture on the right hand side there's a purple area with a red arrow pointing to it. This is known as the claustrum. The claustrum, it's thought, may also be responsible, located quite near the insula, responsible for consciousness. They found, in fact, that when the claustrum was stimulated in a patient, the patient became instantly unconscious. So it's possible that this has something to do with consciousness. When you're ready, move to the next slide. The posterior cingulate, shown in the brain in the area lit up in green, is the part that's active when we're daydreaming or allowing our subconscious mind to be active. It also lights up when we're trying to remember some kinds of events. But interestingly, when we move and slip into meditation, the posterior cingulate becomes quiet. In fact, we see more activity in the anterior cingulate as well as in the prefrontal cortex. When you're ready, move to the next slide. Another area that scientists believe consciousness may begin is in the cerebral cortex. This is the gray matter of the brain, the outer 2 to 4 millimeters, relatively thin. Some of the latest parts of our evolution are in the cerebral cortex, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, in other words, towards the front of the brain. Many different areas, as you can see, are responsible for different things, such as reading, language, vision, parts of the brain which control movements, parts of the brain which receive sensory input. But it's the prefrontal cortex which people are now thinking has something also to do with consciousness. When you're ready, move to the next slide. There are many other theories as it relates to consciousness. In fact, there are people who believe that consciousness, or this sense of who we are, may exist in fact outside of us. There's multiple areas clearly that do become activated when we're in conscious thought or meditation, but perhaps there's more to the story. The posterior cingulate, the claustrum, the cerebral cortex, the prefrontal cortex, all of these seem to work together, networked together, to provide this sense of self and to allow us to have deep conscious thinking and awareness. When you're ready, move to the next slide. Subconscious, or the subconscious mind, the word sub meaning below, has to do with memories, emotions, personality, some of our behaviors and habits. We've talked about the posterior cingulate being quite active when we're in subconscious behavior. It's important that we do have subconscious activities, things that we do automatically. For example, we don't have a lot of conscious activity when we're brushing our teeth. This is something that we can do quite easily. Our subconscious mind can run that. And it's good that it does. It takes less energy if the patterns are driven by the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind includes things like the posterior cingulate, the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the hypothalamus, shown on the picture on the right. When you're ready, move to the next slide. The picture to the right gives us a good analogy for the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, showing us that the conscious mind really only gets used about 10% of the time. The subconscious mind running all of our habits, emotions, beliefs, our memories, our feelings of intuition, imagination, is occupying about 90% of our brain activity. Interestingly, the conscious mind can be trained to program the subconscious mind. So if we think about a habit that we've developed, it is our conscious mind that initially developed the habit. So if it wrote the program, it can rewrite the program. In other words, consciously, we can rewrite the program. By slipping into the gap, which is just another phrase for coming into a meditative state, we can start to observe some of our subconscious thoughts, attitudes, behaviors, and have an opportunity to reprogram that through meditation. When you're ready, move to the next slide. It's during this meditative state, or mindful state, that we have the ability to shift out of our subconscious thinking into mindful thinking. In other words, our conscious mind has dominion over our subconscious mind. Our thinking shifts to the left side of our prefrontal cortex. And during this state, while the subconscious mind will still be chattering, it's an opportunity to become a witness to the chatter, to notice what is being said. Noticing, but not judging, gives us the opportunity to reprogram. On the next slide, we'll be doing a meditation, giving you an opportunity to think about a habit. Think about this habit mindfully, and start to ask yourself questions whether this habit that you have is really important in helping you achieve your goals. When you're ready, move to the next slide. As we've done before, when the bell sounds, we'll begin the meditation. To begin, be seated in an upright position, an upright, erect position, with the head feeling like it's able to float, not a lot of tension. It's almost as if there's a little bit of traction pulling up the head. Have your hands symmetrical and your feet in contact with the floor. Over this next 5 minutes of a habit-changing meditation, know that your mind will wander. When it does that, bring it back to your sensations of breath. In this meditation, in fact, you're going to observe some of your thoughts around the habit. So I want you to start to think about a habit that you want to change, a self-destructive habit. Maybe the habit is not exercising. Maybe the habit is smoking. Maybe it is drinking to excess. Maybe it's eating foods that aren't healthy, or just consuming too many calories. Start to get into your mind the habit that you wish to change. At the sound of the bell, we'll begin a 5-minute guided meditation on this. And as the bell sounds at the end of 5 minutes, that will conclude our meditation. and conclude today's meditation practice. Begin to think about a habit. That habit that you want to change, that habit that is self-destructive. Think about participating in that habit right now. Whether it's eating foods that aren't healthy, as I mentioned, or drinking to excess, or not getting enough exercise. Just think about that habit. Think about every aspect of it. If it's food, imagine, first of all, looking at this food that is self-destructive. Think about how you normally consume that food. Do you eat it mindfully, or drink it mindfully, or inhale it mindfully? Or is it something you just do as a habit? Start to think about placing this into your mouth or bringing it into your body. If your habit is lack of exercise, think about seeing yourself just sitting on the couch, mindlessly try to take in everything you can think about how you feel. If it's a food, when it enters your mouth, what does it taste like? What is the texture and the quality of it? Can you slow the process down to fully experience every bite or every sip? If it's drinking, imagine smelling it. Do you find it pleasing? When it's in your mouth, is it pleasing to your mouth? Does it have a weight or a taste? As you start to digest this product in your mouth, or if it's something that's been inhaled, start to bring it into your body further, swallowing it a little bit at a time, or inhaling it a little bit at a time. How does this feel? As it either moves into your lungs or your throat. If it's lack of exercise, how does sitting around make you feel? Being inactive, how does it feel? Is it enjoyable? Notice now how any of these habits make you feel. If you find you do get pleasure from any of these things, perhaps it's not the product that's the problem. Perhaps it just needs to be thought of in a more mindful way, consumed in a mindful way. If you decide that exercise or lack of exercise is a challenge, perhaps reframing it. How might exercise make me feel? If you're going to change a habit, you need to be mindful about what you're doing and how the experience is affecting your body. That concludes our 5-minute meditation. I've attached a link to the bottom page. It's a TED Talk by Judson Brewer, who does some research in meditation. It's a 9-minute TED Talk. If you have time at some point in your day, I think it is worth the watch. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 5.